About a month ago, I made an account on TikTok, something I thought I would never do, and ultimately have actually used quite a bit. Now, I didn't make the account be a SpawnTrapped account. Just kind of made it be something completely else, so I could use it separate from this and make videos on there about whatever I wanted. But I do tend to watch a lot of gaming videos on there, and saw a great discussion on the state of modern video games in this very online multiplayer focused world that we're currently living in. So much so that 8 years ago when the Xbox One came out, it almost actually shipped with a requirement to have online access 24/7. That's how big online gaming was in the last generation and will continue to be in the next generation. I used to love online gaming. Back on the Xbox 360, I was playing all the Call of Duties online, really enjoyed it, a little bit of Halo as well, really loved playing online. And now today, I don't even have Xbox Live even anymore because I was kind of just fed up with the whole thing. Obviously back then, I was in middle school, maybe a freshman in high school, had a lot more free time on my hands than I do now as someone with a full-time job who can't dedicate hours and hours to playing these games. And ultimately, this was one of the most common complaints people had. They simply don't have tens of hours every week to pour into playing a video game to really get good at it, as they would say. So then the blame for the people who are putting so much time into the game seemed to be pointed at between streamers and just young kids who ultimately had a lot more free time than the people who have full-time jobs. But I feel like even back then, you're playing Black Ops 2, I feel like it wasn't that cutthroat, it wasn't that competitive, where people were playing the game much more casually. Yes, did they want to have, a 3 KD? Of course, but they weren't playing it, in this sort of sweaty sense where everyone knew what was in the meta and ultimately everyone was using the same guns, weapons, what have you, because that was what was meta at the time. I mean, think about Black Ops 2. There was a wide variety of guns being used, and you could boil that down. Maybe the game was a little bit more balanced, but I want to take a look at, say, Advanced Warfare. I remember when Advanced Warfare came out, those first few competitive tournaments, and actually maybe the majority of them even later in the season, I just can't remember them as well, everyone was playing with the BAL. You watch those early tournaments from Advanced Warfare and they're cycling through on the codcasting and literally everyone is using the exact same gun. But then you take a look at people actually playing public matches on Advanced Warfare and there was much more diversity. Were people using the BAL because it was one of the easiest guns to get because it just was unlocked right out the gate? Of course, but they were experimenting with other guns in the way the competitive players weren't. Today, it seems like everyone, even in those public matches, has shifted to being competitive-focused players. And I remembered that, on Black Ops 2, sure, you'd go into ranked matches or league matches, and, you'd have a tougher time. People would be more serious. That's what you expected. But public matches, yes, occasionally you would get a pub stomper in there that would just wreck everybody. But overall, it felt like it was a much more casual experience. You were playing this game with your friends. You were just having a good time. You weren't overly concerned with the objectives. You were just playing the game casually. And it seems like that's something that gaming has kind of lost sight of. Not so much from a development standpoint, though yes, maybe some of these games could be more balanced and the metas shouldn't be so laser focused on being, this one specific playstyle that everybody goes after. But I do think that it's a problem with the players. At the end of the day, this is a video game, and it's something that you're supposed to do for fun. If you enjoy it, play it. If you don't. And that's why I've decided to get away from playing online gaming completely, because I think that too many people have gotten the idea that they've seen, people like Ninja, these other streamers, other competitive players make a career off of playing a video game. And I think that's influenced a lot of kids to go out there and pursue that same sort of career by trying to be, laser focused, super good at a game. And these kids pursue constant improvement, continually trying to get better at their craft. And I get it. People are the same way about sports. And really, I don't have any reason to hate on kids that want to be, an esports athlete. I think that's obviously a legitimate career and people do pull it off. But I must say that I wish I wasn't in the same lobby as the thousands or millions of kids that want to have that happen. I'm just a guy that works a full-time job and wants to come home and be able to play a game online, and ultimately I can't for the most part, with an exception. Now, I did buy a PlayStation 3 and all of the PS3 COD games earlier this year, and I actually had a surprisingly good experience with it. The majority of people who are still playing Call of Duty on a PlayStation 3 are not very serious players. Otherwise, they'd be on newer hardware. They'd be playing newer games. If you're playing Call of Duty Ghosts on the PlayStation 3, you're playing it casually still. And that was something I was very excited to see. Of course, the player base is small. You know, you got 1,000 or 2,000 players on many of those older Call of Duties. You do occasionally encounter a hacker, though I would say Black Ops 1 and Call of Duty Ghosts are pretty clean for the most part compared to something like Black Ops 2, which I consider unplayable on the PlayStation 3, unfortunately. But it does make for a much more casual experience when you're playing something that is that old, because the guys that are more hardcore aren't going to go back to play something like that. But like I talked about in one of my previous videos about the PlayStation 5 and the Xbox Series X, and how I just can't get excited about this generation of video games. It's stuff like this. The new games coming out just escape me. I don't want to spend all of this time grinding, trying to get really good at the game, just to even have a fighting chance. I just want to be able to pop in the game and have a good time, and it seems like the people who play video games as a whole, at least on this current console generation, have lost sight of that, and that's not what they're interested in. And maybe I have become the minority, and unfortunately, as a result, I feel like I'm gated off. That there's a certain point in time, the end of the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360 lifespan, where it's like I can't go beyond that. Or at least there are so very few newer games that I would want to play or would want to enjoy that ultimately doesn't seem like it's worth owning a newer console. And it's a trend that I don't see us ever getting away from. I think gaming will continue to become increasingly more competitive, and for that reason, I'll probably continue to hang out in the PS2, PS3 generation, playing through the thousands of titles that were released in that time period, because ultimately these newer games just aren't for me. And that's okay when it comes to single player titles, but it's disappointing when you think about the multiplayer aspect of it and the fact that you need other people online and servers that are up and running in order to actually play those games. And for the most part, those days are long gone. I mean, like I said, some of the Call of Duty games do still have servers up on the PlayStation 3, but odds are their days are numbered. It just seems like that part of my life is kind of in the rearview window, and sure, I can boot on a system and play online whenever I want, but it's just not the same. It just seems stressful, for the lack of a better term, and it's like many people who have grown up with gaming aren't able to find, I guess the fun in it that they did when they were younger. Maybe that's a problem with us, but I think that more so it's a problem with all of us as gamers and how we've kind of divulged into this culture where we want to be competitive, we want to play the games to win, and we're not looking to play the games for fun. So thank you guys for watching. I'm Bailey, and I will see you in the next video.